Mic 1 check. Mic 2 check. Mic 3 check. Mic 4 check. Mic 5 check. Mic 6 check. Mic 7 check. Mic 8 check.
Push, and if it's green, you're good to go. Okay, well, good afternoon, and thank you for being here today as we continue our negotiations between the city and the Police Officers Association. So, Chris, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Maria. I'm going to present to you a couple of counters. We've changed a couple of our offers, so we'll detail those. We do have some language that we need to sort out, but I think it's conducive to both of us. So we'll go over which ones we still have pending and then go from there. I guess what we'll do is give you our presentation, let you ask some questions, and then go from there. And then we have second meeting scheduled for Thursday so that you can respond.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No, I'll go through it. So each of you have a report in front of you, or a presentation that we've gone through, and it'll kind of give the highlights of what we're talking about today. So we have our agenda. Next page. Yeah. Sorry about that. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty. So we'll go from there. All right, so tentatively, we've agreed on Articles 10, 14, 17, 18, 21, 22, and 23. And I think we're agreed. We're on the same page there. Are no changes. And then these are what we have pending. Article 1, self-explanatory. That'll be the duration of the contract. So once we have a better idea. We've added definitions. We've talked about in the ground rules that if there is a change to one of the counters that may need to go into another proposal, that it's open up. As we're looking at Article 11 promotions, we may expand. Talks about rehires and things like that. So we want to just give you notice that we may be talking about definitions in there. We'll give you a counter to Article 9, LRC. Article 11 is where we talk about rehires. So those are the counters that are on the table. We believe that our counter proposal may take into account Article 12 as well. We will do our counter for Article 13, hours of work. You had presented, and we have a little bit more detail, which our members had asked for on implementing that. Article 16 will give you a counter on the pay proposal. Similar to what we've talked about previously, it does encompass our medical counter proposal as well. Article 25, we just want to give you notice there. If we're talking about rehires, it may end up in the initial probationary period. Article 26 will give you a counter. 28 will give you a counter. Article 30, Article 34, Attachment 6 and Attachment 7, all are ones that we have as open. All right. So you want to pass out the language? We have all of this language encapsulated in the proposal, so we'll pass out the Article 9 counter. Oh, you have that one already? Okay. All right, so on our counter for labor relations, we just removed the previous section 4 and brought up section 5. So that was the ability to interview. After talking about it, we don't believe it met where we needed to go. Okay. All right, Article 9, remove section 4. All right, Article 11, this language is pending, so we've kind of given you the notice that we're going to be looking at 212 and 25, and we'll probably need it till Thursday to give you a counter on that one. All right, Rachel, do you want to take Article 13 on the counter?
Yes. So in Article 13, we've added a couple things regarding the implementation. One of that being implementation committee to work together towards that. We do have the proposed language in the back for the attachment for the phases of implementation to not just advertise information out to everybody, but also account for changing policies and procedures, sign up, and then even an evaluation follow-up period. So it's more lengthy than the one that we received.
So essentially, it's just that attachment there, creating it. So we'll give you some time to look over that.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, in Article 26, this is FTO pay. Currently, there's an ongoing practice to pay part-time FTOs an hour of overtime. That's compensation for having the riders, probationaries. We're going to withdraw our original offer of raising up that pay. It seems that we keep meeting headwinds on what we believe is more of a department problem. What we are going to counter with is to go ahead and make that practice into the contract of the 1 hour of pay, and then to expand it just because we utilize a number of different officers to do ride-alongs. And so that adds an added amount of responsibility to these officers. You're either doing it for community citizen ride-alongs. These officers, if the supervisors are given to their best officers, these are officers that are putting their best foot forward on department operations in the field. These will be foreign visitors. These will be other law enforcement agencies, and go from there. We also have our UEDIs who run an impromptu training program for these promotable positions. So our offer will be anybody who has a rider is eligible for that hour of compensation to what I want to give fair recognition for the duty they're doing for both the department and for the city. And then the other part of it stays the same. If you have it, the FTS field training supervisors will still be able to sign up for the pay. And then if there's a member who wants to become a full-time FTO, but we do believe you're utilizing part-time FTOs on a very large scale. So we'll leave it to the member to decide how they want to be compensated, which is best for them.
Thank you, Chris. And do you have language for Article 26? It's in the,
It's
Okay.
in the
I
it's in the
may have
packet
missed
already
it.
there.
see. Oh, I see it. Thank you.
All right, Article 16 will be wages. I will let Jason do this part of the presentation. What we do want to make sure is out in the folks that are seeing this online, they're seeing our proposal, but we also have our healthcare consultant here. So to help draft language, as we've talked about, that a lot of these compensation articles are interrelated. So we want to make sure everybody knows we'll put the money forward. We have some agreement with part of the medical, but we do want to discuss the other parts of it to help with solutions.
Thank you.
I'll kind of walk through in concept what we're proposing today is an improvement to the starting pay. In previous bargaining sessions, I think it was 2021, we removed the probationary pay step, and that gave a very big bump to starting pay and put us back into the market space with starting pay. Akin to that scenario, removing the step A pay step and moving all the other steps forward. And so there's a rather significant jump from step A to step B, and taking out that step A will raise starting pay pretty quickly, pretty easily, and pretty efficiently if we're just touching the patrolman level of rank. And that's the intent of it, and we'll have language for you that describes that. As you look in the contract, Article 16 doesn't spell out the actual starting pay for step A, but for attachment 2. And so we'll have to redesign attachment 2 to show the intent of raising starting pay. And so eliminating that step A should put us in market space akin to Houston, some of the other big starters, to help attract and recruit, incentivize people to come to San Antonio to work here.
Jason, may I ask a question? So by eliminating step A, so graduate from the academy, you go to step B?
Essentially, you would go to step B, but there'll still be 6 pay steps of patrolman. And so I don't want to sound disingenuous at the slightest bit, but essentially just take that step B pay and move it to step A, move everybody forward 1 seat. Then you would still have that 2% raise from step B to step F.
And to move from step in this new model, moving from the new step A to step B, still 12 months?
You would still have a 12-month probationary period. You would still have a 12-month cycle to move from step A to step B. It just won't be as large a pronounced pay increase. Right now, it's a pretty substantive pay increase. I think it's on the order of close to 18 or 20%.
From A to B, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And so
got it.
we'd essentially have our starting pay start at a higher level, and then it would continue to move the 2 or 3 percentage points along the way.
Understood.
Towards the middle here, you'll see us describe the market raises we're looking at. We are introducing a new concept for this bargaining cycle to address some of the concerns the cities made during the 6+6 financial forecast, and there's concerns about financial stability going forward there. For FY27, we're looking at a 3% across the board raise October 1st and April 1st, with the shift differential increasing across the board for all shift differential positions from 350 to 450. We received a great deal of member feedback about the concept of granularizing who gets what amount of raises, and it seemed to be some infighting with how is one person's position more important than the others if it isn't today. So we've kind of scaled all that back to try and make it a cleaner adjustment from 350 to 450 across the board, so that everybody who is getting shift differential today would receive that increase to shift differential, which hasn't changed for the better part of 40 years. The starting wage improvement we talked about just a second ago. Also in our plan, it's not in writing here on the presentation, but we are looking at continuing the weekend differentials at $50 for Saturdays and $50 for Sundays. If a member's working on those weekend days, then they should be receiving compensation for that weekend work. In FY28 across the boards in October and April of 3%. And in FY29 is where we get into October 1 would be a 4% across the board, and then that last raise is contingent. We are drafting the language. It's complicated to make sure that we have a meeting of the minds of the idea behind it. The bigger concept is that if if the city's three largest part of the general fund are your ad valorem taxation, general sales and use, and your utilities revenues. If those three things are moving at a certain rate, then we'll define that group of three, and it amounts to literally 80% of the general fund, give or take, grants. Right? Legally, we cannot include fees, fines, and forfeitures because then you're incentivizing police officers to write tickets. We don't want to do that. And so we just look at the three biggest parts of the general fund and say, as they grow through the years, if they hit a 3% metric on the average of the 3 years, then a 3% raise would occur. If the average growth rate of those three items exceeds 5%, then the members would receive a 5% raise. And what that would say is if the city's funding, the largest three sources of funding for the general fund don't hit that 3% metric, then the members will forego a raise in that April of 2030. And so it's kind of, it's new, it's innovative, it hasn't been done here before that I'm aware of, but that's the concept. And so there'll be some complicated language once the lawyers get involved. As great as they are, sometimes they can make things spelled out pretty well defined. So you may see a whole page of data that says, this is what we're talking about. And so what you're not aware of is Friday, I put on a 2-hour ad hoc conversation about what a budget is and what the annual comprehensive financial reports are, because we need to know that so we can explain this going forward, and that the annual comprehensive financial reports are audited, right? And so as they're audited, they're presented to investors, aka people who buy city bonds. And so we've had discussions before about what data points to trust, which ones not to trust. For the team, we believe in the ACFRs, or what they're called now, not CAFRs anymore. And so that can be our metric. And so where you may have some tight timelines is typically the ACFRs are presented in March of the year following, right? So you get a finalized book sometime around December. It turns into a financial statement, financial reports audited. It's delivered around March-ish. And that ACFR would be what would define the 3-year running average of growth. And then there's no debates on to the validity of the number. And there's no acrimony about this, that, or the other about what's included in it. It's just as cleanly as we can get to define the members are willing to share the city's concerns with financial performance and hopefully share in some of that success that optimistically we see.
Thank you, Jason. Are you giving us language today on this article?
No, I had planned to do it Saturday, but we had a suicide
Sorry,
by one of the
yeah.
members on Friday night that precluded my completing the work.
No problem. Let me just repeat what you said, just to make sure that I understood it correctly. So fiscal year 27 effectively is a 6% increase, 3% effective 10/1, and another 3% effective April 1 of 27. And shift differential increasing from 300 to 450 a month.
It should be 350 today.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
cut it down.
And we withdrew the overlap.
Yes, understood. And then in fiscal year 28, effectively a 6%, 3%, 10/1, and an additional 3/4/1.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned something about weekend differential. Can you?
Yeah, the timeline to get prepared for today got compressed. And so in this presentation, it should restate a modified offer of weekend differential. Before we had put it at a higher number. Now we're saying, let's at least put something on the board that recognizes people who are working on the weekends.
Do you have a proposal for that today or no?
In concept, it's $50 for a Saturday and
$50.
$50 for a Sunday.
it.
So a member who has, say, Tuesday, Wednesday RDs or relief days would see both the $50 for Saturday and $50 for Sunday. And therefore, if a member's got Saturday, Sunday days off, he's working at the academy or they were working at the academy, they won't see that differential because they have time with their families and everybody else's normal schedules.
So it's modified from, I think we had as 150 and 150.
Got it. Thank you. And then for fiscal year 29, it's a 4% October 1, and then an increase in April contingent to the average of our sales tax revenue and CPS,
Ad valorem sales tax and
property
CPS.
tax, sales tax, and CPS revenues. So in this case, for fiscal year 29, to do the 3-year average, we're looking at fiscal years 26, 27, and 28.
In concept, that's where we were going with it.
Mhm.
In definition, it may take a minute for me to get that language caught up to you.
Okay. Um,
So the intent would be you would have the CAFRs prepared well in advance of that April deadline. You're not scrambling with 2 weeks notice to figure it out. You're going to have
Right.
time to prepare.
Right. So that's what I was thinking. For purposes of the fiscal years 26, 27, and 28 are, that would be the calculation for the wage increase effective April 1 of 29.
Gives you about 13 months to prepare. Considering, I mean, you've got another couple of months before the books are final and they're presented in the ACFR.
Thank you.
Wanted to introduce Garrett Moore. He's a member of the Foster and Foster team for Health and Welfare Consulting. I'll give you a couple of minutes if you'd like to introduce yourself to the team.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. Garrett Moore, Foster and Foster. I've been working with Jason and Chris on the retiree fund for a couple of years. Our firm, from an actuarial perspective, pharmacy marketings, market checks, that sort of thing. So, pleasure to meet with you all today and get to know you. And I know I'm stepping into a lot of history and a lot of decisions that have made over the years, and drinking from the fire hose as quickly as I can, but I look forward to working with you all. And just a little bit of background, I've been doing this for about 22, 23 years. So upon joining Mercer Health and Benefits a long time ago, my first client was Hall County government, and it was just public sector after that. So it's been almost entirely public sector, state, cities, counties, as well as some federal experience.
Very nice meeting you, and thank you.
Keep the party going, and we'll talk in high-level detail about Article 30 healthcare benefits. You've made it clear, both in the town hall last week from City Manager Walsh and in conversations through our working group for healthcare, that there are some rising concerns that are troubling. In that concept, we are looking at a comprehensive, layered approach to address it. There is no silver bullet that we can use to say, it's all fixed. And so at high level, we're looking at multiple layers to address these primary concerns, whether it's the current price or the price control mechanisms going forward. We are looking at multiple layers to figure that out. Kind of drilling down in some of the details. The biggest primary thing that I hear from my perspective, that the union hears from our perspective, is this ongoing issue with the No Surprises Act's independent dispute resolution, for lack of better terms, arbitrating medical bills. And so it's been defined as a structural weakness in the No Surprises Act, in that providers are growing and who leverages that for the most profit possible. So Garrett's got some interesting ideas to discuss that will actually directly impact that issue. I'm excited for that. We'll need to go into a working group subcommittee to discuss it so that it makes sense for us to present some kind of language. There's some work behind there that I think at concept level makes a lot of sense to me. I think you'll like it, but it needs to be developed. And so we asked for a healthcare subcommittee to come in right after this presentation.
Yes, yeah, we can do that after this meeting today.
And then layering into it, the union has interest in direct primary care. For the folks that are home watching that aren't aware of what direct primary care is, it's essentially a subscription service to a medical provider that gives you better access to that doctor. They're not billing through the regular accumulators. They're not billing claims to the network. They're just subscribing to a service. They come in, they take care of you. From my opinion, on a personal level, it seemed to be a very effective use of healthcare dollars. because you get past the, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it in a public meeting, but the flawed system that is healthcare in the American society today. And it bypasses that. It allows the doctors to get back to their nature of just treating the patients, irrespective of all the complications that billing creates. And so in concept, it is allowed to be layered into both a PPO plan and a CDH plan, with very little impact for HSA eligibility or any of the FSA eligibilities. There are third-party companies that provide this subscription service that include pharmacy benefits inside of it. And so you may find, without naming brands, there may be Dr. Reynolds that provides pharmacy benefits at a certain level inside of his clinic. And that space may be very effective with healthcare dollars, and certainly I think more efficient. So we'd like to look into that and see if there's maybe even a better model where we look at some kind of clinic space. There may be some room there to grow and improve the performance of the plan. And then we've got some ongoing development of membership communication we're going to provide to our members to elaborate on the town hall discussion that the manager had Friday while we were in a team meeting about it. I'll kind of pause there for the high level conversation with Article 30 and where we think we're going.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It makes sense. I think we are definitely open to that. We see the value of having what I'm calling city clinics, but it could be contracted out, and having what I've heard from our employees is convenience is important. The ability to be able to go to a place that they can get in and out quickly. So we are definitely very interested in exploring those models. So I appreciate the conversation that we're going to have.
And then there will be involved at some place, some incremental plan design changes that we expect. And what that exact dollar figure is, we don't have it ready for today. Yeah.
All right, so on Article 28, absent of any comments Rachel may want to make, we discussed heavily with process improvement on your side. I think the contract currently has enough where the member has to give notifications to the city. With process improvement, I think it addresses your issues on that side without asking the member to give up any other privileges or statutory items at that point. So we're going to reject that proposal. Article 34 was this moving the basic certification to base. Our feedback from our membership is they don't want to get involved with moving money from a right pocket to a left pocket. But we do believe by changing this offer and doing the starting wage improvement concept that Jason has, that addresses some of your concerns and helps our members out as well. And then I think at this point, that is the end of our presentation. Rachel or Manuel, any comments on 28 or any of those? Are we good? Okay. All right. Maria, we're all good with our presentation. If you have any questions. All right, thank you.
You were red.
Thank you, Chris, for the proposals. We are going to caucus at this time and then review them and then come back with our questions. And I will call you when we're ready.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the counter proposals you provided to the city today. We want to start with a tentative agreement on Article 9 for the Labor Relations Committee. We agree with your language, so we are going to go ahead and sign that. Am I signing or is it you? Forgive me. Okay, and then we have a few questions on the other articles. So for Article 26, for the field training officer, we wanted some clarification to make sure that we understand your language. So if there's a full-time permanent FTO position, including coordinator and supervisors, based on your proposal, they will continue to receive the $265 per month plus 1 additional hour of comp time or overtime pay.
Yes, the idea behind that is we were having issues with getting more people to join in the FTO program because of that 1 hour. So this gives them the same thing, that part-time, plus the extra pay for committing to that program now that we have a lot more officers coming out.
Thank you, Rachel. And just to clarify, the language on the article reads comp time only. Is it comp time or is it comp time and or overtime?
It says an hour of compensation, and so that's agnostic to whether the member chooses pay or CT on an individual basis. It should say an hour of compensation, whether that's CT or pay.
Thank you for that, Jason. Any questions on this, on the city side to clarify that particular? No? Okay, and then the second portion of the proposal is for those individuals that are part-time FTOs, they will receive the 1 hour comp time or compensatory time. Yes,
Yes, that's correct. The
Okay.
part-time FTOs who haven't received full-time status would have an hour of pay or CT, as it reads out.
Said any sworn member, so if you end up with
Any sworn member. Any sworn member. So you may have officers that are on patrol duties that the FTOs are full with probationary riders that would pick up an additional rider.
got it. And then lastly, on the last sentence, any sworn member who's assigned to act in a training or advisory capacity to any, and the any is a question that we want clarification. Is this mean any uniform and or civilian? So for instance, if we had residents doing a ride along, it would apply to that. Thank you. And any questions on the city side? Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, gents, the one question I had is to make sure that who's assigned to act in a training or advisory capacity to any ride, that's if they have an active rider. In other words, I can't be at the training academy and somebody's out on their rides and claim, well, I'm still in an advisory capacity to that individual on their rides.
Yeah, what we were trying to identify there is if you have officers doubled up, if 2 sworn members are riding together and because there's a lack of cars or anything else, then that would be it. I think by practice now, the department has paid the FT, what's his name's title? The FT, you have a cadre at the training academy that is already receiving this. So there's a field training coordinator, the FTC, and I think a couple others out there.
If I'm at the training academy and I'm just an instructor at the training academy and you yourself are riding a probationary, do I also receive the hour of overtime or compensatory time because I'm in an
Oh.
advisory capacity?
No.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
ask it
yeah,
very well then.
yeah. I thought you get the FTO monthly pay supplement listed above, but this hour of CT or pay is for somebody who physically has a rider in their car with them. That is either a probationary officer, remedial training, things like that. What's that, operations? In patrol operations. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for those clarifications. So we'll continue to work on this article. For Article 13, which is hours of work, I think we understand what you're proposing. We just need time to review it. Just checking with the team if there's any questions they may have. And a clarification on the actual proposal, it reads April 10. I'm assuming that meant to be today's date, that we can.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
No other clarifying questions on the city side? Okay. For Article 16 for wages, we want to make sure that we're clearly understanding your intent. So the way that we understand your proposal is that the new pay scale for police officer would start at the salary of step B. So step A is eliminated. So that effectively adds one step that doesn't exist today. Is the same number of steps through E, but that step is 2% higher than what the step E is today automatically. So for anybody who's on the patrol rank, depending on where they're at, they effectively would get a bump once if this proposal was implemented. So if I'm officer step C today, by the fact that we're moving those steps to the left, so now B is A, now my new step is 2% higher than what it is today. Are we understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the city side on Article 16? And then for Article 28, so we received your response to Article 28, and I just want to recap the work of the subcommittee, and we appreciate working with us on this. So the discussion is that there's agreement upon the legal authority that applies to expunctions and that it only applies to the arrest. We think that we have a joint interest in solving the problem and will continue to work towards that. So we would like to take some time to review what you gave us in detail and then come back on Thursday. Is there anything else on the city side, clarification or no? Anything on your end, Chris?
No, not at this point. We will try to get caught up on our tables so that you can see it number wise and then go from there. All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And this, go ahead.
We are nearing the end of the month, so we need to talk about at least extensions. And then if on Thursday, future dates.
Absolutely, we'll be prepared
Okay.
to do that.
All right.
Okay, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.